right. For our next panel on cannabis social clubs, I'm going to bring up our moderator. She's a wonderful person, longtime cannabis activist out of Canada. And she, right now, currently, she's the partner at Groundwork Consulting and the director of communication and culture for Pasha Brands. Let's hear it for Jamie Shaw. Oh, no, wait. I told him there was a translator. I did. Okay. Sorry. All right. Well, while we wait, I'll try to tell a joke in 3 languages. Let's see if it works. Okay. My Spanish teacher told me this in high school, circa 1984 or whatever. All right. So there's a French guy and a Spanish guy sitting on a park bench, right? And a young woman walks by, and the wind blows her skirt up a little bit. And the French guy, who's very philosophical, he says, c'est la vie. And the Spaniard dude says, okay, you'll say c'est la vie, tell me in. I blew it. I tried. It's the only joke I know in 3 languages. It's good. All right, that's cool. I'm enjoying Barcelona very much so far. I've been here 2 days, and I've been high for 3 days. So that's pretty good. Now, Barcelona's nice because here people ask me if I want weed rather than if I have weed, which is cool because everywhere else I go, people, they always think I'm the guy. Hey, you're Bob Marley. I'm not Bob Marley. No swing with Marley. How about now? Okay, we're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jamie Shaw. Microphone on the chair.
That was a pretty big intro to live up to, especially when it ended up being so long. I want to thank ICBC, first of all, for having me here and for having all of us here. I also want to say that I hate introducing myself, but not so much that I won't make my panelists do it. So as you come out, if you want to just maybe say a few words about you yourself and your work, we'll start off with David. I think all the mics are here on the chairs. Come on out, guys. So this is the panel on social cannabis clubs. We'll be talking, obviously, about social cannabis clubs, but we'll also be talking a little bit about dispensaries, retail models in different places in the world, probably mostly California and Canada as comparisons. So, David, from HQ, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey, how are you? My name is David Madilyan. I'm the president, co-owner, and creator of HQ Barcelona. This is I represent here social cannabis clubs by themselves, and this is the model that I defend. HQ is a close-knitted community of members, but besides, it's my home, my family. So the thing is, like, it's kind of different from the other 2 world-known models, like coffee shops in Netherlands where walk-ins are accepted, or like dispensaries in United States where also walk-ins are accepted. In HQ, you can't walk in, so the other member has to represent and sign for you. And it's a big community for sure, but finally, it's a family. It's very important for us. We work with them. We are active members. We want to break this stereotype of typical guy who smokes or he doesn't want to do anything. We do a lot of activities. It's a sport. It's music, concerts. We play basketball. We make concerts. We make some art events. It's a lot of things we do every day. So I don't know. I'm happy to be here and to represent our European model. If you have any questions, I'm here.
We do. We definitely do. Thank you, David. Next up is Dr. Dina.
Hello. I am Dr. Dina. I am not a real doctor. I'm board certified by Snoop Dogg. I started the very first dispensary in Southern California. We have the oldest in-operation dispensary in the United States, which is pretty amazing. But I first started in the medical side. I opened up the very first doctor's office that specialized in medical cannabis recommendations. And then we had to find a place where we could send our patients to pick up their medicine, because everyone would ask, once they got their letter of recommendation, they were now legal, where do we get our cannabis? So we opened up a dispensary in the city of West Hollywood. We worked very closely with the city to create regulations to allow people to have safe access. The reason why we started in the city of West Hollywood is because there are more people living in that city with HIV and AIDS, similar to a San Francisco, than most major cities. And because of that, we were able to push the medical side of it. As you know, cannabis is extremely popular for people with HIV and AIDS. We know that it helps with wasting syndrome, with pain, with nausea, all these other side effects from medications. So because of that, we were able to get the voice of the community. And from there, you could open up the door to people with cancer, people with MS, people with aches and pains, people with migraines, people with stress. And before you know it, that really means to me, all use is medical use. We have now convinced California to loosen its regulations in a way where we now have adult use cannabis. So anyone 21 and over can walk into my dispensary, show their driver's license or passport from anywhere in the world, and they can procure cannabis. They can purchase it. It is taxed. It is like buying a pair of shoes in a department store, except department stores aren't regulated. We are more regulated than alcohol, than pharmacies. It's really unbelievable what we've created. When I first started the dispensary, I didn't see the future, really, of where we'd be now. But now we're a huge industry. And I have licenses for cultivation, for manufacturing, for distribution, for delivery, and retail. So I really have seen the full spectrum. But the most exciting part is now the social clubs, which we are just starting to open now in California. And I think it's going to really change the way that people see medicating or using cannabis, because we're going to have a safe place to go do it, similar to what they've built in Amsterdam and now Spain.
Thank you so much. And just a quick note of explanation. Bernardo will mostly be speaking in Spanish, and so I have a translator here, and I will recap some of it for those of you that don't also speak Spanish. Bernardo, yeah, please.
Muchas gracias. Es un placer estar aquí compartiendo panel. Mi nombre es Bernardo Soriano, soy director de SF Abogados. Es un despacho especializado en asuntos referentes al cannabis y trabajamos con clubes sociales, empresas dedicadas al sector del cannabis. Introducimos otras empresas en España, de Estados Unidos. Y bueno, además, una de las principales actividades que realizo personalmente, representando a muchas otras organizaciones, es el trabajo de incidencia política para lograr un cambio en la regulación en España, ¿no? Estamos en una situación que es difícil ahora mismo en España. Vivimos en un marco prohibicionista completamente, y aunque los clubes sociales de cannabis sean una realidad, todos vosotros y vosotras habéis podido visitar algún club en Barcelona estos días, o seguro lo visitaréis en los días que restan de feria. Tenéis que saber que los clubes sociales no están regulados y en cualquier momento todo lo que existe podría desaparecer si no se hace un esfuerzo importante por parte de todos los que estamos operando en este sector para proceder a una regulación. Entonces, pues bueno, yo quería transmitir esa situación, ¿no? Que hay pocas opciones a día de hoy todavía, si no cambian las cosas en España y en Cataluña, para poder, realizar operaciones mercantiles o de otro tipo en este sector, ¿no?
Bernardo said good morning. No, Bernardo is a lawyer. He does a lot of advocacy work, a lot of activism work. He works with a lot of clubs. If you're from Canada, he's similar to Kirk Tusaw or John Conroy. In the States, I would say maybe Dennis Perron filled that sort of role. And he was talking about how the social clubs are not actually legal, and it's not so much even a gray area that it used to be. And we'll kind of get more into that, how that legislation changed and everything else. Everywhere that cannabis is legal or soon to be legal or has a possibility of becoming legal, it started as a grassroots movement. And in every area, it started actually fairly similar. When you look at the early dispensaries in the Bay Area or West Hollywood or Canada, they tended to be collectives, grow-ops. It was people who were growing, who were sharing with other growers, who were sharing for patients, who were growing specifically for patients. It was a lot more like the social club model than what it looks like now in California or Canada. And then, of course, there's also other models, too, such as Amsterdam's coffee shop model. Bernardo, can you explain exactly what the social club model is here in Spain?
Principalmente el concepto es que un grupo de personas se asocian para producir una cantidad de cannabis para su consumo y lo hacen de una forma cooperativa. Los clubes sociales de cannabis no son empresas, sino que funcionan de una forma asamblearia, democrática y todas las decisiones se toman en conjunto. Es una forma de funcionamiento que no ha sido, buscada queriendo ese objetivo, sino que era la única forma de poder burlar la legislación y el marco prohibicionista existente. Y bueno, eso es un poco el concepto. Como bien ha explicado David, pues no puede entrar cualquier persona al club, todos tienen que ser consumidores previos de cannabis, venir avalados por otro socio para mantener ese circuito cerrado. Y ese es, el concepto por el cual se crean los primeros clubes de cannabis y cómo han venido funcionando durante el tiempo. La otra cuestión es ahora pues cómo han cambiado las cosas a nivel legal hace pocos años, ¿no?
Yeah, so to kind of recap a little bit, the social club model, again, like I said earlier, is very much more like a collective. It's not so much a corporation, and that members are usually referred by other members, so it's not kind of open to the public. Earliest dispensaries, again, in North America were very similar, but it wasn't so much being referred by other members, it was having some sort of medical documentation, which was difficult to get. Dr. Dina, you like me have experience in those very, very early dispensary days. Where is California at right now compared to where Spain is at or where Canada is at?
Well, California is a whole nother beast now. I mean, ever since legalization hit, it's both exciting and sad because there are so many people who built the industry to where we are right now who were pushed out. They were not able to get licenses. And those, to me, are some of the most talented people you want on your side. You want those people on your team. You want them growing your cannabis. Unfortunately, for us, they might be moving to Spain to grow the cannabis here because there's just not that much opportunity. There's only so many licenses that are being given out. There's a lot of big corporations coming in, pushing out the small people. And that's what's really happening right now. Yes, it's exciting that we're seen as a legitimate business, although we still have the federal government looming over our head saying, sorry guys, it's not federally legal. It's still a Schedule I drug. It's not going to happen. But that means I can't bank. And so I can't have a bank account under my dispensary name. They shut me down all the time. You can pop up with a different management company. They're going to find you. And so that's the biggest issue right now. It's the money. It's the banking. It's how do you pay your bills? How do you pay your employees? The state's requiring that we do payroll in a certain amount of time. But how do you pay a payroll company when you don't have a bank account? So you have to find a payroll company that's popping up in the cannabis industry that someone who was a grower maybe could not get a license, but now they're starting a all-cash payroll company. They'll come and pick up the cash from your dispensary and they'll pay the payroll. So we're figuring it out. We're self-regulating as an industry. It's exciting times. For me, I think that by having the social club license, the lounge, and we're in the process of opening up a restaurant and lounge right now, it's open. It's advertised. I can go to Yelp and I can search for it. It's there. That changes the way that people can medicate. Here it's like I had to do a lot of homework to find your place, and I had to send messages to people, and I had to get it made it really exciting. When I walked in, I felt like I earned it, And I visited David's amazing shop last night, his lounge last night, and it's a beautiful place, and it's just a nice place to the community. That's what it's about. It's about building community amongst cannabis users because we're really smart people.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it is. It's very, very hard to get inside HQ. I know a lot of people that knows me. They're like, David, how is it possible? I was there, I couldn't get in. Just right now, half an hour ago, one guy, David, we met yesterday. I'm like, yeah, where? In the front of the shop. I'm like, yeah. So what's up? He's like, I couldn't get in. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. It's difficult. We make it. We're not making it difficult. It's not like usually you have to be signed up by the other. It's all the time, 100%.
Could you imagine the difference though? On January 1st of this last year, when we became legal, I showed up to work and there was a line that was over 1.5 miles long of people waiting. And I'm going, what are they waiting for? I mean, this is crazy.
And this is some of the ironies of legalization. So what we've seen in California in the microcosm is you've got cities like San Francisco and Berkeley and Oakland that had really great sort of community-oriented initiatives, subsidized medicine, things like that. And then once the state legalized, it sort of steamrolled a lot of that stuff and kind of pushed it down.
It's funny you said that because I was in my shop the other day and I was talking and there was a homeless man that came in. And I could see he was struggling and trying to look for some change in his pocket. And normally, in the past, I would see someone like that. I would go into the back and I would grab a joint and I would give it to him and say, there you go, because that's what we're here for as a community. Now I can't do that. I cannot do it unless this man pays taxes.
Yeah, and I think, if you ever federally, I was in a different club yesterday, and it was kind of hard to talk about, legalization because they really want it to be legal. And I was like, well, do you? Because right now where you're at is pretty good. I mean, that's exactly what it comes down to.
But you know what? For me, the legitimacy, I've had a dispensary for 17 years. I could walk into different social circles throughout my life, right, and tell people what I do for a living. And for the last 17 years, it was like, ooh, oh, you're a drug dealer. Or, oh, you're in the gray zone. I can't be friends with you. You might go to jail. Oh, everybody wants to be my friend. Everybody wants to know how's business. Do you need an investor? Everybody's proud of me. I've had people, conservative Republicans are taking cannabis. I had Republican congressmen come to me for cannabis products because they have a bad shoulder. It was just cream, but they wouldn't use it before, and now it's okay. So the stigma is gone, and I believe that stigma is going to help the rest of the world. Once that stigma leaves, everybody else is going to see this was not a big deal. Nothing's happening. There are no car accidents in California more than there were before. In fact, there's less. There are less kids using cannabis because it's just not cool anymore. It's like, it's easy to get it. Big deal.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what we are
and opioids,
depending here.
Drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We are equipped to provide cannabis to our users, so there is no more case of there is no need to go to the street and find a dealer. So it's like it's more closed.
Exactly. And when you go to a dealer and you're looking for cannabis,
it's not regulated like Bernardo said it is.
But if you have a child and you know that kid is going to go buy weed, right? Wouldn't you rather them go to a social club and pick it up there as opposed to go to a drug dealer who might offer them and say, hey, I'm low on weed, but I have some ecstasy and some pills that I don't really quite know what's in there, but take those. I've had too many friends overdose over the years because they didn't have access to cannabis. So.
In Vancouver, what we've seen, and this was even before legalization, is as the number of dispensaries grew, the youth use rate dropped. The age of first use dropped by a whole year within the space of about 5 years. Trying to get cannabis in the high school didn't work. I smoked my first joint in the girls' washroom in I think grade 8. That was the first time I was exposed to cannabis, and I don't think schools really see that now.
Well, they have the DARE program, and I think that's what a lot of kids' first introduction to cannabis is your brain on drugs is the egg cracking in the pan, and you're going to be toasted. You can't pass the SATs, which is all a lie, obviously. But my nephew is 13. I never told him what I did for a living. I was terrified this kid's going to find me on Instagram and see my profile. I'm like, oh God, he's old enough, right? So I sat him down and I said, listen, and I was so terrified to tell him. I felt like I was telling, like I was as a 15-year-old telling my parents I was pregnant or something. It was like this horrible, oh, by the way, I'm in the marijuana industry. He goes, oh, okay, that's for sick people.
Yeah,
it was like, whatever. Why is that important? Why do you care? Why are you nervous?
And those attitudes change so fast.
So quickly.
So fast. Like, I think people would be surprised.
And that's our future, those kids. And if we continue...
I have a nephew. He's 13. He came, he's coming every year to Spain to visit me. So last time he was like, hey, you know what, uncle? You gave me this shirt. I saw 420 on it. What's that? I'm like, it's the number of the building. I had the office. He's like, yeah, sure. Yeah. So, they know it. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, I know what you mean, because last time we moved to another apartment with my wife, it was like, all right, we signing the pre-contract, and it was good. In 2 days, the agent's calling, like, David, it's not possible. I'm like, why? Because they just looked up your name in Google. I'm like, what's up there? They put your name in Google. And yeah, so, but you know what happened? The director of the agency called owners and they talked, and we came in and they were like 90 years old, like serious bourgeois people here. They were cool. We explained, they saw me, I don't know, it's changing. It's very slow,
I think
but it's
the
changing.
Older generation are actually impressed
tolerance
by what we do because they appreciate entrepreneurism. Like they appreciate that you can go out and build a business. It's like the younger ones. I feel like it was like the 60-year-olds I had a hard time convincing.
Exactly.
But we've gotten them. We won them
one time we went to see the building before the HQ. We opened the HQ, and that woman, she was like, "What? Weed? No. This is not for our family." I'm like, "What? What do you mean? We'd rather have a bar open." I'm like, bar?
Right,
so you want to open the bar?
Drunk.
So anytime you open a bar, you know that there are some, consciences. There is coke, there is illegal alcohol, there is kids entering, walking in. So you're accepting this, but you're not accepting weed club.
Right.
That was so I almost got kicked out of Bergheim last year, a club in Berlin, and it was because of that. I was smoking a joint, and there's people going in and out of the bathroom all night long, every 10 minutes.
Sure.
And they came up to me and was like, "You smoking that shit? And is there shit in it?" And I thought they meant tobacco. I was like, "No, I don't want tobacco in my cannabis." And it turned out, my German friend was like, "No, that's what they call cannabis, shit." And I was like, "Oh, that's a weird stigma to kind of still have to try and deal with."
Yeah.
Kind of coming back to the models, I was wondering, Dave, if you could talk a little bit about the coffee shop model in Amsterdam, for example, and how certain unregulated gray markets, there's certain benefits to it, and then there's also some drawbacks, such as, you still have the threat of having your kids taken away from you or things like that.
I think my favorite part of regulation is the lab testing, to be perfectly honest. Just knowing that what we're getting is clean, it's safe medicine. You have, when legalization first hit, and I tried to look into my little, crystal ball to predict the future as to what would happen the next day. It was December 31st. I was terrified. I didn't know if I was just going to have miles of 21-year-olds standing in line buying the cannabis. And there were small amounts because not many people had been licensed yet. And my concern was, will I have enough cannabis for the medical patients? Because we still take the medical. There's the adult use side and there's the medical. Medical patients can buy as much as they want. There's no limit. They don't pay sales tax if you have a medical card. They still pay a 15% excise tax, but it's lab tested. And to me, that is the most exciting part. Because there's going to be molds, there's pesticides.
It's also a minefield, though. So what we're running through in Canada is overly restrictive. So if you grow in live soil, for example, there's no way you'll ever pass testing. Right. And it doesn't matter if it's clean or not. That's the way they set the regulations, right?
I have a friend who failed their pesticides, or they had E. coli in their cannabis. It was from their earthworms on an organic grow. So yes, there could always be bumps in the road. There's going to be a learning curve to figuring this out, but there's a lot of clean product on the market. That part is great. What I noticed that when, instead of the 21-year-olds showing up, it was the 60-year-olds. Yes. It was all these people who were afraid to get their doctor's note, who said, I've got a bad shoulder, or I can't sleep at night, and I'd like this. The vape pen market went through the roof overnight. Really incredible market. I would probably went from 15% of our sales to 60% of our sales, which is tremendous. But with the lab testing, you have phase 3, which just hit, which is heavy metals. And a lot of companies using cheap cartridges are noticing that the metal inside the cartridge is leaching into the oil. The silicone ring is turning into ammonia. So it's not all perfect, but we have to make sure we're using a good high quality product, pen, surgical steel, that's good for the end user.
For sure, yeah. I want to come back to David on process a little bit, but first, Bernardo, how would you deal with this? You're the spokesperson for Regulaciones Responsible, or Responsible Regulation. What are the 5 pillars of that organization, and how do you want to address these types of issues here in Spain?
Bueno, nosotros partimos de la base de que la regulación de los clubes sociales no es suficiente. O sea, es un modelo que desde luego en una futura regulación hay que respetar, pero por otra parte hay que tener en cuenta otras cuestiones como el autocultivo, que cada persona que quiera fumar su propio cannabis lo pueda cultivar, o también dar pie a la iniciativa privada para invertir en compañías, crear dispensarios, crear cultivos y crear plantas de transformación, porque evidentemente, como decía antes, los clubes sociales de cannabis no se pueden plantear como un negocio, sino realmente como una cooperativa, como una familia, como dice David, pero no como un negocio. Pero ese negocio tiene que existir, porque los clubes sociales de cannabis no son representativos del total del acceso al cannabis en España o en cualquier país del mundo, ¿no? Todo ese acceso se hace en el mercado negro y todo eso tiene que transitar a un mercado regulado, por supuesto, y por otra parte los clubes sociales de cannabis no pagan impuestos. Si nosotros estamos hablando de impuestos, salvo los impuestos indirectos de cualquier otro negocio, pero si nosotros hablamos de crecimiento económico, de generar miles de millones de euros en recaudación, tenemos que hablar del ámbito empresarial, del ámbito mercantil, del ámbito de la inversión. No nos basta solo con los clubes de cannabis. Además, por supuesto, el acceso al cannabis medicinal de una forma segura, como decía Dina, con una trazabilidad del producto, con unas analíticas serias para que los pacientes tengan esa seguridad en el acceso, ¿no? Entonces, desde regulación responsable, los 5 pilares serían esos: autocultivo, clubes de cannabis, comercio con licencias, acceso al cannabis medicinal y un sistema educativo y preventivo de los riesgos del consumo.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I can hit all 5 of those properly, but personal growing is a big goal. Access to medical cannabis, access to education, and of course getting the business world involved, which is where things start to kind of go funny. We've got the same thing in Canada where, all of the black market players, all the people that got us here sort of got pushed aside. And I mean, in fact, there's a shameless plug, but Pasha Brands, one of the groups that I'm working with now, is built around that. It's literally designed to get these black market players licensed and legalized and regulated in that model. So the other thing that Bernardo mentioned was that the cannabis social clubs, that they contribute to overall economic activity, but there's no direct taxation that goes through, and that they're not really companies. They're run more like families or collectives, as we spoke about earlier. So, David, what's the process if I wanted to set up a social club here tomorrow? How would I do that? Besides calling Bernardo and making sure I have a good lawyer.
Yeah, that was my first hint. Yeah, call Bernardo. First of all, there is a complicated process of getting all the paperwork done. There are specialized companies that can help you here.
So what kind of paperwork?
I don't know what's the name in English, but it's estatutos. It's like the rules that your organization gonna buy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if they're still giving the licenses. I know that in some regions of Spain they're not giving it them at all. Here in Barcelona we had I think 2 years of they closed it, then they open it again. It's difficult. It's very difficult. the thing is also when you want to open a social club, you have to understand that the cultivation, the growing, and the transport is illegal here in Spain. Absolutely, no gray area. It's just illegal. So yeah, let's say in Netherlands, for example, they you know that they can sell weed, but they can't grow weed. I mean, like it's a loophole. It's a big loophole. Here the same, but the club, all this social club system is working still just because one thing, it's the constitutional right here in Spain to, if you're adult and you're more than 18 years old, so you can consume your cannabis privately. So if I can do it myself at home and you can do it yourself at your home, what's up if we want to do it together? And what's up if we all want to do it together? So we gather, yeah, and we make a collective crop, yeah, and we just rent a place, yes, and we set rules to be abide. That's it. So that's how it starts. Everyone that wants to get in, it has to be represented by the other member, and there is no other way of getting in. This is very, very strict thing, and I don't know if a lot of people understand that. The no walk-ins is very important in social cannabis club system.
It sounds very similar to the way that they deal with alcohol in places like Salt Lake City in Utah, for example, where they've got the private clubs.
By the way, yeah, because you know, when you said about you mentioned that right now in California you are like there are places. I know that you are trying to open the restaurant with a lounge, but I was there like a few months ago. I found just one place in whole San Francisco where there was a lounge. Is it changing? I mean, like, is it difficult to get the license to lounge?
Well, we used to just be able to smoke in the dispensary in San Francisco. Oh, for years. We had a front room, and that was just, you'd go and buy, and you sit down, you smoke it. It was normal, but there was no food or drinks, or it wasn't exactly like, we don't want you to hang out all day. It was just smoke your joint and go, because we have only one couch, right? We need rotating couch. So, yeah, but other than that, it's very, very different. Now, the licensing started, they haven't given them out yet. So they just in the last month or so have started giving out these licenses. So give it about three months or so, and they'll be open.
We've gone through something similar in Canada where, again, the early dispensaries had all smoke rooms in the back, which brought a whole host of new problems to deal with.
But see, what's interesting is in California, similar to Spain, you go into a lounge and you procure your cannabis there and you smoke it on site and you don't leave with it. But the challenge for us is that in order to get into the lounge, you have to walk into a dispensary first. So you have to go into the dispensary and then a door into the lounge. So it's all combined into one type of business.
Which is, I mean, it's an evolution that I think we're going to need to get to.
But how do I determine
as a separate
if you walk in the dispensary and you purchase product and then you go into the lounge and then can you consume that? Do you have to buy it separately and then can you walk out with your bag? I mean, these are all problems that we have to deal with later.
Which are better problems than what we have in Canada right now, because what we've done is, well, similar to very early medical systems in the States where they were like, okay, you're allowed to have medical cannabis, but you couldn't grow it yourself, you couldn't buy it from anybody, nobody could sell it to you, but you were allowed to have it, right? And we're sort of like that now in Canada, where we've legalized last October, and there are still some lounges around, but they are illegal still. And because they've sort of looped things into tobacco smoke laws, can't smoke inside. So that's where we're at right now, is where we've got illegal lounges that we're losing, and dispensaries that used to have lounges have pushed them out. And so, Bernardo, how would you suggest Spain handles consumption lounges or spaces?
En España, el propio espacio de consumo, el club social de cannabis, es completamente legal. Lo que tiene dudosa legalidad, o ya una zona gris o incluso negra, es la distribución y el cultivo. Pero en España, en un ámbito privado como es una asociación, la diferencia es que no son espacios abiertos al público, son espacios privados, Entonces, ahí no afectan las leyes públicas de restricción del consumo. Entonces, el consumo en los clubes sociales de cannabis es lo único que está completamente respaldado y donde no hay ninguna problemática. Lo que tenemos que trabajar y sobre todo incidir políticamente es para la regulación, como bien apunta David, del cultivo y la tenencia. En España, la tenencia en la vía pública, en la calle, la tenencia de cannabis en la calle, pueden poner una sanción de 600 a 30.000 euros. O sea, tú puedes fumar dentro, pero si lo sacas a la calle, te enfrentas a una multa elevada, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, el problema no es consumir dentro, es la distribución, el cultivo, el transporte y la tenencia, o sea, casi todo.
Yeah, so consumption right now is actually the only thing that is legal in Spain, but there are problems with the sale and distribution, but also possession. And that was, when I ordered cannabis yesterday at the club, she kind of got a little nervous when I told her how much I wanted, because she was like, you can get really big fines for this. But I mean, again, this is something that sort of changes as we go along, and do you see losing rights to consumption as you start legalizing and legalizing the sale of public distribution to like adults, say?
En estos espacios privados no, porque como digo no afectaría a la normativa pública, son asociaciones cerradas. Dudo mucho que si hubiera empresas donde se distribuyera cannabis, sería muy difícil que se fumara en el interior, porque al igual que en California o en Canadá, está prohibido fumar tabaco o fumar en general en cualquier espacio cerrado. Entonces los clubes sociales serían, bajo mi punto de vista, los únicos lugares donde se podría seguir consumiendo cannabis en una regulación. O sea, podría haber quizá dispensarios donde podrías comprar e irte a fumar a un club social, o a fumar a un club social donde no hubiera a lo mejor cannabis, solo se pudiera fumar pero fuera privado, ¿no? Siempre manteniendo esa privacidad no habría problema en ese consumo. Yo creo que es algo que, como digo, está salvado la regulación española.
So Bernardo doesn't feel that the social club model is necessarily going to change. It's because the public lounge is not very likely due to the same issues that California is running into, the same issues that Canada is running into in terms of equating it with cannabis. I think we're getting pretty close to the end of our time, so I want to actually ask each of you one more question. And I will start with David. What would be your perfect advice for how Spain should legalize cannabis?
There is no perfect advice. I'm optimistic in that we are really years behind of legalization right now. But let's say my prognosis is like 5 years maybe. Right now we have to understand that it is very important to analyze all our products and to be clear with our members and try to push the platforms such as Rosa Verde or Regulación Responsable and try to make them support what we do. Why? Because, as you said, maybe it's not cool to be legal. For us right now, yes, because we don't want to be neither black, neither gray side. We want to be white. And yeah, we can't pay taxes, but you know what? In HQ, we're paying all our salaries to all our workers by bank. We pay taxes from that. We pay taxes from all the product, non-weed product on site also. We want to be very clear with open hands, right? So this is how we operate. I don't know, if someday someone gonna come to my door, knocking and say, hey, you're arrested, I'm like, why? I only just to make people happy, that's it. I don't know, something like that. Thank you.
Dina?
I have one question.
Yeah,
Is
no,
it possible?
please, shoot.
I have just one question for you, because the thing is, like, you're opening a restaurant and a lounge together. It's interesting. Why? Because, for example, in social clubs, we can't have a kitchen. You know why? Because we're making like illegal competence to restaurants, and they can claim us for that. You know, because you can't smoke inside the restaurant. So if we have a kitchen inside the club, so it's illegal, you know, like, because people can't smoke inside. What do you think about that?
You know, it gets very complicated, and when you start creating regulations for a social club, you're sort of separated from a real restaurant. You can serve food. There's definitely a wall. There's a separation, but it's a place where we can serve. So, and the food is not medicated food, but if you order French fries, we can sell you a packet of medicated ketchup that you can then use. So that's how we get around it.
So what we've got something similar, again, illegally.
We're the experts at workarounds, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we've gotten this far.
So yeah, there's a pizza place in Vancouver that you show up with your oil and you give it to them and they'll put it on the pizza for you.
That sounds amazing.
In terms of legality, I mean, we're going to see edibles regulations by October in Canada, and so we will have legal edibles soon. But right now they're looking at...
I just care about the hash.
They're standalone production
We're not going to have hash for 2 years.
You won't even have hash then, likely.
That's my problem with Canada.
Yeah, that's one problem.
That's my problem.
There's quite a few. But yeah, so what would your advice to Spain be?
You know, look at the other models that have worked. Obviously, Colorado went first in the United States. California saw that. They saw the money. At the end of the day, that's what the government wants. They want the money. And unfortunately, we have to kind of sell our souls to the devil a little bit to make this work. But they will want the money. And when they come for it, hopefully you guys will all get licensed to be the first ones to be able to run it. It's really
Fingers crossed.
Bueno, yo creo que no voy a descubrir nada nuevo. Lo más importante es la presión, el lobby y dinero para poder conseguir eso. O sea, como bien ha dicho David, necesitamos respaldo en forma de dinero, apoyo técnico a todas las organizaciones, no solo Regulación Responsable y otras muchas, como el Observatorio Español de Cannabis Medicinal, la Federación de Asociaciones Canábicas, la Rosa Verde, para influir políticamente y cambiar las cosas. No hay otra opción. Podemos perdernos hablando de modelos, de qué nos gustaría, pero en realidad todo es un globo que se puede pinchar y todo estallar, ¿no? Lo que necesitamos es cambiar la ley. Para eso hace falta técnicos, hace falta influencia, hace falta lobby y hace falta dinero. Esas 4 cosas.
Thanks. Yeah, Bernardo's talking about the need for support in the industry and that you've got to lobby to get legal, and that is the first step. And I think where some people were surprised when they've got state legalization in different states or national legalization in Canada is that you think once you get legal, you're done lobbying. It's like, no. Your lobbying's just started. It's just started. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to say to sort of finish up? Or...
Bueno, y seguir trabajando en esta línea porque aunque podamos tener una perspectiva pues difícil, yo también coincido con David en que hay que ser optimistas y que si echamos la vista 6 años atrás o 10 años atrás, ni de broma pensaríamos que podríamos estar en esta situación. Entonces es trabajo, perseverancia y presión.
Yeah, thank you. So he was saying it's the result of hard work, pressure, and lobbying, and it's hard to imagine being here 5 years ago. We're the same in Canada. I can't imagine California is any different. It's like you make a lot of progress. There's a lot of problems, but it's one step at a time, and yeah, there's still a lot of work to do. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Let's be leaders and not dealers. That's the main thing.
And be careful what you wish for.
Thank you.
One more time for them. Do you have time for? We have 5 more minutes or so.
Yeah.
Right, tenemos 5 minutos para preguntas. Anybody? Okay, close. I like that you're saying.
Una pregunta para Bernardo. Tengo entendido que hace un par de meses el Tribunal Constitucional ilegalizó el modelo de asociativo bajo el cual las asociaciones operan. ¿Cómo es posible que las asociaciones en sí puedan seguir operando? I'm going to say it in English. How is it possible that the Constitution of Spain has officially declared that they illegalized the model of cannabis associations, and how is it possible that they're still operating?
Bueno, no fue hace 2 meses, fue hace 3 años y medio, el 7 de septiembre de 2015. Es una resolución que se ha recurrido, ha llegado al Tribunal Constitucional hasta que el Tribunal Supremo en marzo de este año 2018 ha declarado ilegal la actividad de ese club en concreto, no se puede generalizar, pero está claro que estamos en un momento difícil. La respuesta a tu pregunta es la tolerancia y, por otra parte, la desobediencia civil. Tolerancia en determinadas zonas del país que es mayor, por ejemplo en Cataluña existe una mayor tolerancia, el modelo es donde más se ha expandido, pero hay otras zonas como Madrid donde la represión por parte de la administración es muy dura y están cerrando clubes, están condenando a personas a años de cárcel y la situación jurídicamente es imposible de que mejore, solo puede ir a peor jurídicamente hablando, al no estar regulado el modelo. Entonces, es por esa tolerancia administrativa en algunas zonas, pero eso, como decía, es un globo que se puede pinchar en cualquier momento, es algo que puede cambiar y a peor siempre si no existe una regulación.
So the kind of short translation of that was that it requires different things in different areas, tolerance in some areas, such as here in Catalonia, and civil disobedience, a lot of civil disobedience in places like Madrid, where you've got more kind of oppressive government policies.
Yeah, hi, Bernardo. I'm going to ask you in English. Have your organizations had any support from, let's say, the big boys and the big girls, the Cannabis Spectrums, the Waylands, the Auroras, the Tilrays, who I would suppose are the ones that are really interested in your advocacy? Has it been difficult for you to get funding to put forth the pressure that you need to? I believe that they have a certain responsibility to help you out.
La única organización realmente importante de la que hemos recibido apoyo, al igual que otras organizaciones a lo largo de todo el mundo, es de la Open Society de Estados Unidos. En España hay muchas organizaciones que trabajan en regulación y hay muchos proyectos que requieren dinero. Las empresas españolas aportan, pero de una forma disgregada. Entonces es difícil conseguir los medios necesarios para hacer una campaña realmente efectiva. Desde luego que nosotros, pues, con aportaciones de ese tipo de empresas, llegaríamos mucho más lejos y mucho más rápido.
So you said the only large organization that's actually helped them is Open Society in the U.S., that some Spanish companies help, but that it's scattered and they're smaller companies and that they need support, but that they're not really getting it from those organizations right now.
Hi, I have a question for, I guess, either David or Bernardo. Similar vein, Alcali is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies. Why would they allow for the associations to take over this very lucrative business when they're better situated for the medical cannabis industry?
Oh, that's what I thought. I thought like companies like Anacor, for example, one of these 5 companies that have this huge contract and license granted by government, they can't support them. No, like I mean, why would they? They're making big money on that with a license. They don't want small companies having a license. We don't believe in that. We don't believe in the monopolized system. We want small entities, small groups of people, if it's possible, to get licensed and to follow their work, because there's a lot of experience there. I think that should be a fair way. 5 companies again here. What do you think about the Anacor? They have to support you.
Estoy completamente de acuerdo con David, pero aquí hay que diferenciar algo. Cuando hablamos de ese tipo de compañías, estamos hablando de un ámbito estrictamente farmacéutico. No estamos hablando de un acceso a cannabis recreativo que no existe de una forma legal en España. Sería imposible pensar, aparte un poco ingenuo, el que en un mercado regulado no estén las compañías farmacéuticas. De hecho, ellos van a tener esta parte del pastel, no puede ser de otra forma. Lo que es importante es que se respete el modelo de club social de cannabis y que se dé pie a la iniciativa privada pues para tanto el cultivo, dispensarios como manufactureras. Pero yo entiendo que el mundo farmacéutico está ahí y lo va a seguir estando, ¿no? La cuestión es que el acceso recreativo quede pues un poco con la posibilidad de que distintos operadores, pequeños, grandes y medianos, puedan entrar en él.
Sorry, still going there. Basically he said it's naive to assume that there's not going to be pharmaceutical companies taking a lion's share of medical markets in particular, and that they should support recreational cannabis. I mean, again, we've seen this in the United States and in Canada where they don't really support it because they don't really have to. They know that once we push it through, they then have access to make pharmaceuticals out of that. So they're kind of in this position where they don't really have to do anything.
Hi, Isa Perez. I work at Meadow. We're a point-of-sale company out of California. So we do all the software for dispensaries in California. So I kind of wanted to know more on the tech side, your experience with software. Obviously, it's a little more mandated in California, but I'd love to know, from Bernardo and David, what the experience has been with actually using tech and being held more accountable from a technical perspective. In California a few years ago, you saw a lot of pen and paper, so it's easy to throw away and burn if you had to. But I'd love to kind of know what the similarities or differences are. So just quickly in Spanish, me encantaría saber la experiencia de usar tecnología y software en las operaciones de los clubes sociales.
All right, so we are using our technical support and program we did by ourselves. I mean, we don't use any other platform. It's done by the company and made to, yeah, it's been, there was no like book, how to open the social cannabis club for dummies. So we had to like make thousands and thousands of mistakes and like get up next day and say, hey, okay, let me do it the other way. So yeah, there is like a huge experience in what to do right and not right, and finally I decided to make our own program. I can say that it's very complicated, but yeah, it works, and yeah. So thank you, my team. I'm very proud of it.
En España cada vez se utilizan más estas herramientas. Hay distintas empresas españolas que han desarrollado este tipo de softwares, incluso hay algunas americanas como Weedmaps o como MG Freeway que están trabajando con muchos clubes aquí en España. Todavía no se puede usar la tecnología completa como en California o en Colorado, seed to sale, porque los cultivos pues realmente no son legales, ¿no? Pero sí que se utilizan este tipo de herramientas pues, para llevar gestionar el club con un mayor control y sabiendo en cada momento lo que pasa, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, creo que es un momento en el que la ausencia de regulación hace que ese tipo de cuestiones todavía queden en un segundo plano, pero sí que es cierto que ya hay muchos clubes sociales que las utilizan.
Bernardo was just saying that the seed to sale kind of software that you see in Canada and the United States isn't really in effect here because, again, the growing and distribution is illegal.
We can't promote, we can't promote anything from our club outside. So that's why also.
Right. Yeah. Well, and in terms of specifically the inventory tracking, that can be a problem. But Bernardo was also saying that they do use some other types of software, and I know that you probably did something similar in West Hollywood that we did in Vancouver, where you just sort of adapted retail software and tried to make it work the best you could.
Well, we have Metric, which is the state software, and so your POS system has to link to the states, and then it has to upload. It's very stressful. It's very stressful.
So you have a metric POS, but not the metric system in the US.
We don't use metric yet. We will be using metrics.
Thanks. My name's Adam. I actually happen to work at Canopy Growth, and I'd be happy to speak to you about possibly supporting what you're doing out here. But I just had a question about how many social clubs are actually opening on a yearly basis.
Yo diría que no hay un censo realmente específico de clubes de cannabis. Abren muchos, cierran muchos, pero podríamos estar hablando de unos 2.000, 2.500 en toda España. La mayoría de ellos, casi la mitad o más, diría, en Cataluña. Es un número que más o menos permanece estable, pero no podríamos, digamos, establecer una cantidad de clubes que abren, sino una cantidad media de clubes que permanecen a lo largo del tiempo, que sería unos 2.000, 2.500 aproximadamente.
So, I mean, the number varies a little bit, obviously, as new ones open and other ones close, but between 2,000 and 2,500 is Bernardo's estimate of what is in Spain, and about 50% of those are here in Catalonia.
Wow, that's a lot.
All right, thank you. We're out of time, but I'm sure they'll be happy to answer more questions if you have them in the hallway after this panel. Once again, let's hear it for Jamie and Bernardo and Dr. Dina and David. It's fantastic. That was great. We went to HQ last night, and it was a wonderful time. I recommend that club highly.